All right, Fyzee. So let's probably start with a new topic. So let's talk about casual racism in Australia.
Alrighty. Yeah. So look, we just want to go through this topic based on our experiences and things that we see. But look, we'll start off with you, Sydney. Have you experienced casual racism, at least either in the workplace or school or uni even?
I was going to say, let's probably start with the definition, because then we define it as probably an offhand remark or any throwaway line that relies probably someone being mean or that bit of malice, and then showing a bit of prejudice. Yeah, I'll give you the one that I can remember the most, which is it's a bit funny, but as well it's a bit of casual racism. Just because I spoke Spanish, I had to be a Mexican.
Yep, that's your identity.
Yeah, 100%. That's my identity. That's pretty much what it was. And then it didn't matter. Pretty much anyone that told me that. It started as a joke. It started in school because I went to the last 2 years of high school. I did in Australia, and then it started as a joke. And then I let it go because so we're trying to be friendly. I just let it go. There's no malice because it's just a classmate, that sort of stuff. And then it was my career. As I went into uni, same thing happened. But then it was that connection of, I don't know if you're doing it out of malice because I don't know you, or you're doing it because you're trying to be friendly.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And then when it came to starting my career working in the industry in Australia, same thing. I saw it there. So that never stopped. And then pretty much when I started talking to other friends, these are things, friends from Colombia, friends from Venezuela that work in IT and the industry, and as well friends from Brazil. So they speak Portuguese, they don't speak Spanish. And then I told them, so when you were at work, did they teach this joke to you? And they're like, yeah. So pretty much for anyone that's Australian, between the lines, Fyzee, whatever, I'm a Mexican. Doesn't matter what language you speak or where I'm from.
Damn. And okay, so would you say that all that experience that you got, do you think that it was there malice involved? Were they trying to be mean, or were they trying to be just friendly and joking around? Like, what percentage would you say?
To be honest, I reckon it was probably most of them were trying to connect, trying to make a joke, trying to find a friendly way to actually start that warmness, pretty much, and get to that stage. But then I reckon it's just probably like a knowledge and as well experience. Because then instead of to become friends with someone, you don't try and offend them first.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Well, that's
so a bit of education. So something that was missed.
Yeah.
In the W transfer, pretty much.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, in their eyes, they're trying to be friendly. So, but then to us, it's not always it can be friendly. But I feel like a lot of immigrants probably just go with it because they want to be, they want to feel involved, and they sort of let it go because it's like, whatever. At least I'm trying to fit in. At least I can fit in this workplace, even though they're making a bit of a joke. It's okay. At least I feel at home here. Not at home, but like they can sort of fit in. So they just let go a bit of their pride. Just to have the joke going.
And look, and the reason why we bring it up, this bit of casual racism, is because you're not going to see that flat out, full on someone calling you out, because that happens, but it's usually on the news and someone's drunk and at 6 p.m. news they don't show it on the train or anything, because life, unfortunately, that happens, but it's not every day. But then you do experience a lot of little bits and pieces of people just doing off comments. I saw it as well, and I called it out a couple of times when I was at UTS with students, and as well they were mates, and then they were from a Chinese background. Pretty much all the students were doing off comments, and then the usual racist comments, calling them chinks and to be offensive. And then that's not good at all.
No, that's
because then if you experience that sort of stuff, and then if it's a friend, just call it out. Even if it's someone that you don't know, and then you can call it out, just do it. Because then the thing is, when you call that out, that sort of behavior, people just apologize, so they literally just walk out, and then just they don't want to see you because then they know that it's something wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, in society generally, people are afraid to call it out because they're afraid of confrontation. But I promise you, if you're in a group of people and everybody sees that happening, if you're the one that steps up, I can promise you there's going to be more people that just join in and just support you in sort of backing you up. So you just have to be the first one to actually call it out. And it's tough because nobody wants to, like, you go to uni to study and, whatever, you're not going there to be confronted. But if you do see something like that happening and you do raise a concern, you will be backed up generally, I feel like. But you just got to be the first one to take that step. Don't be the, what's it called? The innocent bystander syndrome or something? Yeah, something like that. So don't fall into that if you do see it happening, because generally, like oftentimes international students and migrants, as I said, they will probably just accept it because it's just words at the end of the day. They're not really physically being harmed, so they will just go about their way. But at the end of the day, just because it's not physical does not make it right. It's still wrong. So very important to call it out. And I think a lot of times in my life, I have probably not done that. I haven't called it out, which, not good. But you just got to be the first one to do that.
And then what about you from a personal experience? Have you noticed this behavior as well or not at all?
Look, I definitely have. So when I first came to Australia, during sort of primary school and high school, there was a lot of like flat out racism there. Obviously not a frequent occurrence, but it did happen and I did experience it. But when I got into the workplace, it was none of that flat out racism was there. It was more so casual racism, which, as you mentioned, if you're from Pakistan and you speak Urdu, just forget that. You're not that at all. You are Indian, and everybody just refers to you as Indian. And I've also had comments, people being like, "Oh, it doesn't matter. You're Indian. Or it doesn't matter. We'll just call you this because it's easier for us."
So
which
pretty
is
much they were profiling you.
Yeah, I mean, it's it doesn't feel very good because it's your own identity. You've been born with it, and for someone to just take that away and just label you as something else is definitely not right. So a bit of casual racism there for sure, but I think a lot of it, like 90% of it in the workplace, is all fun and games, right? Like if they can make a joke like this, so can we, and it's all just friendly banter. Probably the 10% of it is where there's actual malice involved, and I think that's where it's not okay. But like, yeah, it's a very fine line because it's different for everyone. Like some people can just joke around a bit, make these jokes to each other, and it's all good. But I think a lot of the times when you don't know the person well, you can really offend them. So yeah, I think it's just about knowing who you're speaking with and just knowing if the person is okay and whatnot. So it's going to be different for everyone. But let me ask you though, do you think that having this sort of casual racism, casual sort of banter about race, do you think it's beneficial? Do you think we should get rid of it completely? Or do you think that there is some value in sort of having, a bit of laugh here and there?
I think it really depends because I'll give you this one. A lot of my friends that I have that don't speak Spanish, they're from different backgrounds. India, Pakistan, like different backgrounds. And then we don't even speak the language that's close to each other, like not really. But then that little banter, because we have that relationship, that changes a bit. So that when they try and give you a joke that's a bit of a stereotype, it's a joke. It's coming from the heart, but all the heart trying to be funny and then just pretty much just tease you a bit. Because that's how you get along with friends. So that's what happens. So that bit of piece, I reckon that should stay. It's just the way when you try and use it with malice. That's the main thing. Because then I reckon if you do it often enough to someone, that person probably will get inside you a bit of depression on it.
Yeah.
Because then you start thinking that's what people know about you, and that's what it is.
Yeah, I say so. Yeah, I think the other thing I wanted to mention as well is, like, I think you mentioned before this podcast with like Europeans such as Italians and Greeks calling themselves wogs, and that I think some people might say it is a form of racism. In my experience, though, in my high school and primary school, people were proud to refer to themselves as wogs. They actually wanted to be wogs, and it was seen as something that was like super cool. I don't know what the scene is now.
I think that's probably when we were in school at that time, it was a bit of empowerment. That will became a bit to say, I have an European background, and that's it.
Yeah, that's my identity, and that's
But then if you keep asking questions, probably their parents or the grandparents, when they started being called that, back then it was derogatory amount. It would mean pretty much you were being racist. That's what it is. Yeah,
and they would have faced it, and now it's, as you said, it's like a identity of empowerment where people actually feel good to be called that, or they take it back and change the meaning of it in a way.
So you can say that at least we can see a side of the coin, which is with time things change.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah,
and they change for the better, which is good.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with your answer in terms of casual racism. Like, is it beneficial or is it required? Not required, but like, is it a should it be completely wiped out? I don't think so. I think it just depends on.
I don't think, unfortunately, because there will always be a reason to discriminate whatever, anything, any person. It's not right. It's wrong. But then you can't control it. That will happen.
Yeah. I think, just got to step up when the time is needed and just, speak out, reach out to people. But yeah, in terms of full-on racism, that is, I think we're seeing less and less of that. From my experience anyway, and from what I'm seeing in the news and whatnot. Of course, the news isn't everything. There could be other things going on, but based on what I can see, I think things are getting better, would you say?
I think they are. Look, I reckon, unfortunately, this is part of the immigrant experience, especially when you move to a new country. You will have to go through this and then live through it. And you're going to try and come out in the better side, pretty much. Because you're going to try and be stronger just to get away with any bad feelings that you're going to go through because of this.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, yeah. And in terms of this topic, I think, casual racism-wise, I think that's the only thing that I've sort of experienced little comments here and there about, Pakistan being XYZ and just making little jokes about it, which, it's a bit sad. But at the end of the day, life goes on, you move on. What about yourself?
I reckon it's the same. I was going to ask you, in your career, because you've been at a couple of the banks now, how do they feel? Like, do they teach you about it? Do they tell you to not do this? Is there a lot of rules?
Look, in terms of rules, I don't think there's so much. There's not too many, but you can definitely feel that there is a bit of corporate expectation to be, very to be controlled. So things which you could have said, 10, 20 years ago, you can't say anymore, and you've got to be a much more respectful and be very, what do they call it? Politically correct, right? So be that.
So everyone's forced to behave.
Yeah, forced to behave, but which is interesting because if you force these behaviors don't really go away. They just, if a person is genuinely racist or casually racist, they won't do it when people are watching. They'll still do it behind closed doors when they're around their own type of people, right? But I guess in the general workplace, people are very controlled, and it's quite inclusive. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty good. But I think if a person is a certain type of person, they will be that certain type of person when they get the opportunity. But I guess that's just life. I mean, if you're a douchebag, you'll be a douchebag, right? But banks, I feel like, because it is a Big Four bank, it is quite large, and if things go wrong, it can be on the news and it's huge damage. So I think there's a lot of controls there. People are generally pretty toned down. What about yourself in the IT space?
It's a bit of a hit and miss, because then the IT space for me, it's multicultural. So you see a lot of people from everywhere. And then you don't see, between immigrants, to be honest, you don't see that side of any casual racism at all. It's more pretty much if someone's bad at what they do or there's some complaints, you just call it out and just say it.
Yeah.
So I can say that that's a good thing. But then when you, let's say, meet with someone that's older or different generation, there's that bit of, what do you call it? The political correctness side of things.
Yeah.
It's either switched on or off. It really depends on who you talk to. So it comes out either sometimes as they're just being funny and they didn't mean anything on it. It's just the way they are. Other times it's a bit off. And then when you see those comments, you hear them, and pretty much in an event somewhere, you can see people just looking at each other. There's something wrong going on.
What is he on about? Yeah. Old timer. But look, I do see that a lot. Obviously, with the old generation, they're used to a different thing completely. Like, they've lived their life, in a completely different time. But I think in those situations, I think the best thing to do is to probably just let it go. I mean, of course, you should definitely call it out. But at the end of the day, they're just an old person from a different world, saying a whole bunch of mean things. At the end of the day, they really don't have any power to do anything else apart from that. It's not like they can get physically aggressive. They're an old person. But what do you think should be done if you do see that sort of behavior from an older person?
I reckon you just call it out. That's what it is. Because then when I say call it out, it's more just shut up. Do you just saying the wrong thing, just walk away. We're not saying for you to get up and then try and confront them and start a fight. That's not the point of it. It's just to tell them, you're doing the wrong thing, mate. Just go away.
Yeah, I think that's good thing to do for sure. Anything else you want to go over in terms of casual racism? Any other like comments you've experienced? I know the whole Mexican thing is big.
Probably I'll reach out to the community if they've experienced any bounce or any comments that are casual racism. Probably hit us up and let us know your experience, because then we're here to build a community that will be able to support each other and help each other out, and then to let you know that if you experience that, not to worry about it. It is a sad part of the immigrant experience. It is bound to happen, but at least you'll have someone to talk to in our community.
Yeah, absolutely. And from my experience, things do seem to be getting better. Obviously, casual racism, as you said, it's going to exist, unfortunately. But I think the full-on racism is the more dangerous type of it, and I think we're seeing less and less of that. So I think we're going in the right direction. But definitely do reach out to us. We can definitely provide resources, have a chat, whatever it is, and we can do that. Yeah.